Hi, everybody. Uh, Again, thanks for a great introduction, um, Felicia. So yes, my name is Sheilah. I am a coach. I consider myself a coach that works with people who might be a little stuck, and I focus on getting them unstuck. And in particular, I like this image. I do focus on women in particular, though I definitely have male clients. So if it sounds a little biased, it will be just for this presentation, but not for all work I do. And of course, this image is a little bit about some of the people that I work with and many of the women that are out in the world today who have a tremendous amount to offer, but have a slight kind of confusion around how to bring themselves to market, let's just say, or bring themselves to a market as a board member or something volunteer and/or paid. I am a student of positive psychology and behavioral science. As a trained coach, coaches can kind of pull from all kinds of disciplines. It's really exciting that way. I'm a big fan of the most recent of the psychologies, which is positive psychology. And Abraham Maslow, who was born in 1908, was at the tail, sort of in his older life, was at the tail end of the beginning of positive psychology. But I just really quickly, because I only have 20 minutes, so I'm going to go really quick, and I'm going to start with this slide, which I find fascinating. And it has everything to do with change, right? And as we come through this COVID phase, and we examine what's been going on just in terms of many of our households, two things. One, that change just seems amorphic and we don't know quite how to change. And two, there's this motivation issue, right? A lot of people are just like, I cannot get, what used to take me 4 minutes, is now taking me an hour kind of days, right? So in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, in order to get to that top triangle, right, where we are actually in the place where we're ready for self-actualization, we have to have some basic needs met. Psychological being at the bottom, physiological, like food, clothing, house. Safety needs, certainly with COVID, do I want to go out into an office space and be exposed, that kind of thing. Belonging needs, I'm part of one type of tribe now. How do I kind of turn my ship and not lose my posse here and go this direction? And then in almost every single case, self-esteem needs I come across, right? A lot of people lacking confidence. They may be out of the workforce for some period of time, or they might be in a job where they're getting kind of beaten up. So self-esteem is a big piece of the kind of work I think coaches and many, service providers work with and coach through. So it's exciting stuff. So this is what I would say is not untypical perspectives on career transition that we come across, and below in the green, right, is sort of referring back to Maslow. So when you worry about, rebuilding identity, that's different than the one you have now, that's self-esteem. When you're afraid to start all over again, you're like, what if I fail? And I work with a lot of people who are overachievers and perfectionists, and so this fear of failure is very large. The financial risk, what if I invest in myself or I invest in a business and it fails? And then the fear of the unknown, which I think is huge, particularly now in this shifting world that we're in. But the most spoken about, I think, now, and particularly as the world turns, the speed with which the world is changing and work is changing, is this a sense of feeling outdated. Even if you're 25, so 25 to 80. And just to reflect on that last, sense of fear, right? I just want to really quickly go through some stats about what's going on in the workplace. So we're all hopefully somewhat familiar with the gig economy, right? The economy that says, contractors, freelancers, consultants, even the online economy is actually part of this gig economy, which precludes benefits and 401ks and that kind of thing. We understand the statistics bear out that employment platforms really only can be attributed to 10% of job placement. We know that there's this hidden job market. 70% of jobs don't even make it to a job board. 70% of jobs don't even make it to a job description. So there's tons of fertile ground and opportunity to get at that hidden job market. And we also know that it is still true that 80% of placement for work, or professional placement, comes through networking. And many of the people I work with are somewhere between, 35 and 69, and they have a plethora of contacts and networks within networks. And then lastly, a lot of people I work with have done a significant amount of volunteering. And according to LinkedIn, webinar, or sorry, conference I was at, 41% of job seekers look at volunteer kind of roles on par with professional roles. So if you have that concern, like I've only been a volunteer, well, now you're competitive. So what I think about when I think about change is like, what is the attitude and what is the motivation that I come to this kind of goal towards, right? I want to find my next professional place, and what do I see needs to be in place for that to happen? And in my experience, and actually again in science tells us that there are some really very attainable attitudes to reach, right? One is that I am a curious person, and the curiosity is free, right? And it comes in a variety of ways. It comes with the second bullet, which is learning, like online learning, like I'm going to go to a master's class and learn French. But it also comes with, I'm curious about the person next door. I'm curious about the dog person that I met. I'm curious about almost every single thing that happens around me, and I have a different lens on it. So I'm willing to kind of put myself out a little bit to ask questions. When you get at questions, you get to new learning, which takes you to new action. So curiosity is the most important currency, I think, in this equation. The continuous learning is obviously really important, and we find when you do that asking, you can ask somebody like, what do you think I need to know, or what kind of certification would I need to get, to be considered? That's a continuous learning. Yeah, I'm ready to do that. I will do that in service to this new opportunity that I want to go towards. And then this open without regard to past is really about limiting beliefs. So to say, I'm not a writer, I've never been a writer, my family always told me I couldn't write. We have to move past that and understand that everything is learnable. And those limiting beliefs only limit us further. So 3 attitudes for success. And while you're on this journey, I have a lot of people who do not actually surface because they're worried that they don't have anything to say. So the work that I do, I'm sure a lot of other coaches do it, is the most important thing, the only thing we have now, and particularly in this misinformation culture we're in, is your narrative, right? Like what do you say to someone when they ask back about what you're doing, right? And the beauty of your narrative is that it's always underpinned by your values. So it's like what you own, what's important to you now, right? Security important to you now? Is integrity important to you now? Is collaborative, working important to you now? And you can hone that. You can figure out what those are today, and then weave those into your narrative. So what moves you from the person who's scared and has the insecurity and the psychological or physical concerns to coming forward to the happier professional pursuer? I say enter tiny habits. So I mentioned I'm a student of behavioral science, and there is a lot of science that talks, maybe you guys have heard about this, but it's really interesting stuff. It's about how taking small actions over time, bridge with current actions, create new habits. And they know, so for example, we're in the new year and everyone has these huge resolutions that don't come to fruition, right? There's like an 80% drop off by February 1st. So how is it that we can build in habits that will get us past some of our concerns and some of our insecurities towards where we want to be as professionals? And I'm just going to use this example and you'll see the thread. So the idea, it's also known as stacking. And the way it works is that you have what they call an anchor behavior, right? Which is, I walk my dog every day. And when I'm going to create, and so with that anchor behavior, I create a small new behavior. So I want to be, I wanted to get in a little better shape. So I walk my dog every day and I walk him probably 6 blocks, but I'm going to add 2 more blocks. And I do that over time, and I keep adding, and I may even add 3 more blocks eventually. But the idea is like I'm increasing the amount of time I'm walking. I'm satisfying this desire to be in better shape. And I've created this habit because I've repeated it over time, and I've done it in small increments. And after you do that, after you walk those extra 3 blocks, you celebrate. And the act of celebrating creates dopamine, which reinforces a positive experience, which reinforces reward, which makes you want to do it again. So you literally have to be like, so happy I did it. I added those 3 blocks. And they talk about how you should really like say something like, I did it, which kicks in the hormone. So here's another example. So the anchor activities, I take a shower every day. I take a shower. And after I wash my face, I'm going to think, and I want to, this is actually part of your homework assignment, so pay attention. So I want to, the new thing I'm going to add to this taking a shower after I wash my face is I'm going to describe for myself one accomplishment or one thing I've been proud of. It could be from my high school years up until present day. It could be as simple as I threw the best 90th birthday party for my father. I climbed a mountain I never climbed. I ran a marathon I don't run, that kind of stuff. So you just talk about that event. And after you talk about the event, you congratulate yourself in the shower before you get out. So, and it sounds crazy, but it actually works. I'm here to tell you. And if we have any further conversation, I'll tell you about my own experience. Okay. So I want you to do this for me right now, because it's part of homework, as I mentioned, but I want you to think of a proud moment. And as soon as I say that, just whatever, again, doesn't matter. I had a great conversation with my son this morning. Could be something as simple as that, okay? And when you think about that moment, I want you to think about, so what was the accomplishment? So I had this breakthrough conversation with my son. I haven't been able to talk to him for 3 months. He's been on his, computer or whatever, right? And what was the enjoyment? I love my son. I miss him. I really want to be with him more and figure out ways to be together. So what did I do best? What I did is I didn't go at him to say, like, how's that job search going? I went after him and I said, tell me what's going on with that cereal bowl. What is it about that cereal that you like more than that? Like something just completely innocuous that has nothing to do with like the pressure he feels every time his mother comes towards him. And what was my motivation? My motivation is I want my son and I to have a great relationship, right? There's a drive in me that is primal, and I need to make sure that he's with me. And the subject is family, okay? When you think about that accomplishment, so I would say that within any of those categories which you're looking at, enjoyment, motivator, subject, you will find your value set, some part of your value set, and you're definitely going to find some of your skill set. So in the case of what I did best, I planned, right? I withheld language in an effort for him to be able to be the one who comes towards me. How does that work when you're working in a team? How do I get the best out of my team? How do I make sure they have a voice and I don't? I could create a calm environment, which is very important in business and particularly in team working in business. So you can start to kind of tease out kind of more executive language around some of these more innocuous things, right? So what I want you to do, leaving this call, is I want you, when you take a job, I want you to think about, for the next week, once a day, just think about an accomplishment, okay? And once you've thought of it, describe it to yourself, think about the skills, and think about the values that are embedded in it, and then congratulate yourself, okay? And it might then eventually create a habit, and you can ask to do it with your spouse. You can ask your kids to do it, which is really fun. Gets everyone moving, right? So you're not alone, but you're thinking in terms of how do I peel this apart, and what does it say about me? So the way I want you to also think about it is when we get excited about things, what do? So I'm the kind of person, when I'm excited about something, like fill in the blank. In my case, I go running out, I get as much information as I possibly can. I start telling my friends, I get really excited, and right. So if you take this kind of professional direction goal and you say to yourself, so I'm the kind of person, when I'm excited about I'm excited about trying to figure out what my next path is going to be, right? And what would I do in service to that, right? So here are some of the small steps I want you to think about doing in service to this idea of finding your next self, right? Your next professional direction. And it's very simple stuff. So let's say you drink coffee, and every single day you have so every day you wake up, you take care of yourself, you do a lot of self-care, then you have your second cup of coffee, and you could say, every time I have my second cup of coffee, in order for me to get at my narrative, right, in order for me to get at my skills and to get at my values, to get at my strengths, to get at my interests, to get at my lifestyle choices, my work style preferences, what can I do? Well, of course, you can be with a coach, but you can also, I mean, the democratization of information is with us. So you could just even pull up one effort, you pull up a list of values and you check off all the ones that are important to you. And then you say, you know, right now going forward, and particularly when it comes to work, like I want good colleagues, I want really nice colleagues. That's valuable to me now. So you can, you know, distill the top 5 and say, okay, these are my top 5 values right now. And then I can talk about that. I can literally go out into the world. I already have something to talk about. I've figured out that colleagues are really, really good colleagues. I'm tired of working with, you know, people, that kind of thing. Okay, so the same is true of skills, strengths. There's all kinds of stuff online. I can also help you with that. The second is about your interests. So we talked about this accomplishment. When you name like 15 accomplishments, you're going to start seeing patterns of interest. Some that's like cooking, travel, art, negotiation, delegation. I mean, you'll see where you keep showing up in really important ways for yourself. And you'll also start to figure out, you know, things like, I don't know if I want to be behind a desk all the time because my interest is really being outside, you know, having a desk outside. I want to be a contractor, you know, that kind of thing. So my interests are going to drive my work style too. And that can be something else to do after your second cup of coffee. Talk with people, as I mentioned. There's nothing more sort of informative than somebody who's been in the shoes of something you might be interested in. So for example, I have clients all the time, like a recent client is like, I want to be an art dealer. I think, you know, I have an art background. And so I said, okay, how are you going to get at that, you know? And so we identified 3 people that she could talk to, 2 of whom were in the business of art dealing. And she's not going at them saying, I want a job in art dealership. She's going at them as an anthropologist to say, this is one of the 3 things I've always wanted to look under. And while I don't know for sure this is what I want to do, I'd love to hear about what your day is like, right? That kind of thing, right? So anthropology versus feeling like you're knocking on the door for a job. So you're saying like, I'm really good negotiator. I'm really good at helping people, you know, be the voice in the room. I'm an art connoisseur. I, you know, love people. So this is something I've been looking at. I don't know if it's right, that kind of thing. So you have a narrative. You're not declaring that that's exactly who you're going to be, but you have something to say to somebody who could actually help you further, right? Because that's all about this networking, is people helping each other go further. And then lastly, I think, you know, looking at future trends in some of these interest areas is really fun. If you go online, you know, Dennis, you go online, you look up futurists in media or futurists in education or futurists in work. It's fascinating to see where people think we're moving towards. And when you do that futurist work, that helps you stay relevant, right? So you want to be sure that you're heading into a business or company or whatever subject area that's going to be relevant. And it's an obvious statement, but sometimes you can get really excited about what's to come, and that you can speak to that when you're in interviews or networking or anything along those lines. So finally, I would say find an ally. There's all this data that suggests that people, you know, when you're in the throes of change, and HAYVN has this, you know, everywhere, that to being together, being with at least one other person helps you actually have sustained progress over time, right? Because in a vacuum, we all just end up spinning with those big, you know, clouds of, you know, that keep us stuck. And so having somebody as an ally is really critical. an individual, a group, you name it. And eventually, piecing this together, this is something that comes out of the work I do, but you get this composite, right? And this composite says, okay, these are the top 5 in all these areas. And some of these are assessments and some are, coming actually, if you're with a friend, you can, the middle column here, it's like what you're known for, You can go out, and I think a couple of people on this call have heard this before, but it's so powerful. You go out and you ask a friend, what's the one thing what's the one problem you'd come to me to solve? And the friend's going to tell you, and it's going to blow you away. You're going to be so excited because you don't really actually know what you're, either receiving end of your behavior because you can't receive it yourself. And you can do it back and forth. And so you can start getting really good material about, like, when you're in an interview, you say, what I'm known for is that I'm objective. When I'm making decisions, I'm completely objective. And that really works well, for blah, 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 blah. Or I can take a really complex subject and reduce it and make it really simple, that kind of thing. So with this, sort of set of data, you can start to go, A plus B plus C, and you end up with a narrative that helps you go out into the world to get at that 80% networking, 70% of hidden jobs. Does that make sense? I wanted to leave you with this. I know it's a little bit speed dialing, but I wanted to just get a sense of, like, it's fun to be an anthropologist of your own self, right? If you're not under the pressure of thinking, this is every single thing, I've got a good job, or I'm not qualified, or I'm obsolete, or, get rid of all that and just start the process of getting to this beautiful plate of potpourri of who you really are, which gives you the ammunition to sound, to build your value proposition in the world. So lastly, I just happen to be having a coaching circle that's coming up at the end of January. It's 60 days long, 8 hours of coaching together as a group, super fun, and then 2 hours of coaching with me. You end up with this composite of your narrative, and it starts in January, end of January, ends in March. I'm also available for one-to-one coaching. And I'm a HAYVN, what am I, Felicia, called?
Okay, yeah, you're a HAYVN maven.
I'm a HAYVN maven, exactly, right. So yeah. I'm available anytime for, half-hour quick call, or to check in and help guide anyone.
That's if you're a HAYVN member, you have access to our HAYVN mavens as part of membership.
Exactly. So thank you.